Hello everybody, this is Karen from Sew and Save, and we're here at my sewing studio at the Ponderosa today. It's kind of cloudy and foggy and chilly out, so it's a perfect day to hunker down and work on our blocks. So we are working on and through this Build a Quilt workbook. And every month we do another block. It's in conjunction with our So What block of the month. And that meets every third Wednesday of the month at Sew and Save in Racine, Wisconsin. So we're working our way through this book, and we are now on month or block 5. And block 5 is on page 11 of our workbook. So this is what our block looks like this month. I don't have my big board. It's actually at the store with a display on it. So I wasn't able to have our big board here today, but this is what month 5 looks like, or block 5 in our quilt workbook. So I'm going to kind of just slide this over and tell you what you need to cut this month. So cutting is very simple. This is a pretty simple block. You're going to have 4 kitty corner blocks, and then you're going to have 4 of these kind of elongated flying geese blocks, or point blocks, or star point blocks, whatever you want to call them, and then 1 point or 1 block in the center. So it's really pretty quick and easy this month. So what you need to cut will be 4, or not 4, but 8 small squares. Is that going to stay up on there? It is not. Okay, 8 small squares. These little small squares are going to go along with each of your star point blocks here. All right. Then you're going to need 4 big rectangles. The 4 big rectangles are going to be part of your kitty corner block. Then you will cut the blue, and their blue is my blue. So I'm going to have 4 large squares. And those 4 large squares are going to be the kite pieces, or the unit A pieces in your kitty corner block. And then 1 small piece, or 1 small square, I should say, which is going to be the center of your block. Alrighty? Then you're going to need 4 rectangles. They're calling for 1 color as gold and 1 is red. So mine are 2 shades of blue. So you're going to have 4 of each rectangle, and those are going to go right in here inside your block. So the first thing we're going to do this month is make your kitty corner blocks. Then we're going to work on your star point blocks, put everything together, and you'll have a beautiful block 5 when you're all done. You are ready to start your block. The first thing we're going to do is make your kitty corner block. So you're going to take the 4 large squares that you have and fold them in half and make a triangle, just like we do every single month. I'm going to throw these going this direction because I want my fold over to the left. Then I'm going to take my kitty corner ruler, go to step 1, put that diagonal line right on the fold of my triangles. And then I'm going to trim them, just like we do every month. There's 1. There's another one. So that we make our unit A, and I call them the kite pieces. The kite units, because they look like little kites when we're finished. So easy peasy, we've done this every single month. Step 1, do the kites. Now when I open them up, they look awesome. And I'm going to set those over. And what I'll do before I sew these is kind of press that crease out so they lay nice and flat while I'm working with them. But when I'm folding them and cutting them, I want a nice crisp fold so I get a nice kite every single time. Actually, I'm going to kind of lay these out on my design board, because then I'll add my other pieces in a second. Then I can just pick everything up, take it over, and stitch it. So now I have 4 of my large rectangles, and we are going to use step 2 on your kitty corner ruler, Make sure that you're going to align this edge with the left edge of your block. The little dog-eared corner runs right straight along the top of your block. You're going to take and trim here, and then I automatically just flip this one over. Trim again, lining up the line with the left side of your block. That little dog ear right straight across the top of your square or rectangle. Slide that over. Now I kind of flip them over so they all look the same. Now we're going to go to step 3. Step 3, we're going to line up this little edge with the bottom edge of our triangle, and we're going to dog ear that little corner. That's going to help everything line up perfectly when you're going to sew it together. So each one, just like this, and by lining it up, all I have to do is pick up my ruler, set it back down, and trim that corner. Oop, come on, I'm kind of crooked here. Here we go. Right there. Alrighty, close up my cutter, and there I go. Now I'm going to take these, and we are ready to lay them out. So remember that the long end of your little triangle goes with the large end of your kite, or the top of your kite. Line up that little dog ear and lay it all the way along there. This is going to go on the other side when I'm all done. Flip this one, line it up, and then we're going to stitch 1/4 inch along this edge and press away from the kite. Alrighty, just like we did every other month. I hope you're getting this. I hope these blocks are getting easier and easier every month to do. I know they're a lot of fun. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go stitch those, press away from the block, and then we'll put the second side on. And then we'll be ready to trim them up. It's that fast and easy. I have all 4 of these done. They are pressed, away from the kite in the center, which is your Unit A block. And now I'm ready to put the second side on. So I'm going to get all these lined up on my nice little design board. Pick that up and go to my sewing machine. Sew these at 1/4 inch once again, and then press away from the kite. And we'll come back and get them all trimmed up to be squared up and to be the right size. I have all of these sewn and laid out so that the small point is up at the top. I'm going to use the trim 1 and 2 to trim this down. So now what we're going to do is line up that little corner edge, and this diagonal line is going to go straight through that point and straight up through this point, and we're going to trim here and here. And we're going to come back over, pick it up, lay it down, all the way diagonal from point to point. Trim those 2 edges. Pick it up, pick it up, set it down. All 4 of these. I think every month these get a little bit better. These look better and better every month whenever I do these, so I hope yours are too. We like to get our points just perfect. So when you do this, you're going to end up with 1/4 inch from that itty bitty point to the edge of your fabric, so that when you sew it in, that point will not be cut off. Get rid of these little corners up here. I'm kind of reaching over to do this, probably right in front of the camera. There we go. I'm going to slide that out of the way. Now I'm going to turn each and every one so that the large part of the kite is facing up. I'm going to line up the 4 right along the edge that I sewed, or the edge that I cut, and then I'm going to trim. That one didn't have much to trim, but that's okay. I'm trimming a little, and that'll work out perfect. I'm going to continue with the rest, so we get all 4 of them trimmed up beautifully. When we're done with this, we're just going to set those aside and move on to the next section right away. We have one more thing to do, And then we're going to be ready to put our block together. This is a quickie this month, isn't it? And so fun and easy. Look at how good those look. Very excited. All righty. Okay, set those aside, and we're ready to do the next step. For the next step, you're going to need your, what they're calling gold and red. So I have 2 shades of blue here, and we're going to grab the design board because I'm going to lay these out because we need a right and a left of each. So I'm going to lay them out how they're going to go on my block. Trying to decide if I want them to go this way or this way. I think we're it's not really going to matter. So I'm going to lay them out going this way in sets of 2. This way you're sure that you get a set going the right direction each and every time. So I oops, I thought I trimmed that all the way down. Okay, I'm just going to grab another set over here. Here we go. There and there. There we go. Right there. Now we're going to take, so we have a gold and a red, all exactly the same. So then we're going to take our small background squares, and I drew a line diagonally on each one. So now I can lay these out so that I know for sure that I'm making a right and a left. So you can see how each point goes a different direction. So I'm laying those down, and now when I take them over to sew, I'm going to be able to see that I've sewed these correctly, because there's nothing worse than ending up with all lefts and all rights on something, and when you need a left and a right of each one. So this one I know that they're perfectly perfect, and there are going to be no do-overs. Now I'm going to do this at a scant stitch. So what I want to do is I'm going to be sewing, supposedly you're going to sew right on the line that you drew diagonally. I'm going to sew just over towards the outer point on this, just a little bit. I'm going to go sew them, and I'll bring them back and show you what they look like. So you might want to just wait for a second till I get mine sewn, and then you can see how I do it, just to give us a little bit of an extra stitch so that everything lines up really nice. So I'm holding this board up a little high so that you can see up close that I've sewed just to the inside of each of the lines that I drew. Now it's time to trim them down 1/4 of an inch and press. So grab these up and grab a little ruler. So I use the 1/4 inch part of just about any ruler. I like this little 3.5 by 6.5 inch ruler. It's easy to handle. I've got plenty to hold on here, and I line up that little 1/4 of an inch on my Creative Grid ruler. That's why another reason why Creative Grid rulers are so great. They have that little 1/4 of an inch that I can just line up, and I have a beautiful 1/4 inch seam on each and every one of these little guys. So I'm just going to come along and trim them all down, and then I will press toward the corner over here. And then these guys are ready to go. We're going to be ready to line up our blocks and sew them all together. Although I'm going to give you a little tip don't go away yet. Before we do this, I am going to give you a little tip for pressing. I am going to have you do a little different pressing on this, so that everything nests up and you get a nice point. So hang on, let me get them all trimmed. One more here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I press, and I'm going to lay them all out the same way. So I'm going to lay these and then this on this side. So when I press, I'm going to press the light side. You can pick either side. As long as you do all of them the same on each side, you'll be fine. So this side, I'm going to press my seam going up toward the point. And on this one, I'm going to press it down toward the bigger part of my block. That way, when I lay them together, they're all going to nest really, really nice. So I have them all laid out the same on each side so that I get them all pressed going the right way. So this side's going to go up, this side's going to go down. Now that I have these all sewn and pressed, so you can see that I pressed the light ones so that they go up and the dark ones so that they went down. Now you're going to sew these together and you're going to match up this little area right here. And because you press them going in different directions, they're going to nest together nicely. But let me show you what I do when I sew some of these. I'll make sure that my seam is nicely nested. And before I sew the whole seam, I'll just sew this little bit right here, right before my seam, and then I'll stop after my seam. That way I can see if these lined up and matched up nice. Because if I start up here, even if I try to pin or clip or whatever, fabric moves as you sew it. So by sewing this, I can open it up, see if I liked how they matched up, which, oh, they do, they match up beautifully. If they didn't, all I have to do is rip out this little bit instead of ripping out an entire seam. Because you know, the more you rip and pull on your fabric, the more stretched out it's going to become. And now this is locked in place. So now I can start up here and sew all the way down, and I sew right over the top of that stitching, and that's not going to interfere with anything that I do when I press. So I'm going to sew these all together, then we'll be ready to sew our whole block together. That was fun and easy. I now have them all sewn together and pressed. When I pressed mine, I pressed my seam open. You can press them to one side or the other or open. I find when I press it open, this little area right here can kind of sometimes get a little bump. It's nice and flat. There's no bump there at all, but you can do it however you like. There's no right or wrong on this. Now, are you ready? We're ready to sew this whole thing together. So I'm going to lay these out. These go in the center. All right, I have a center square that's going to fit in the middle, that little center square. And then I have my kitty corner blocks, and they're going to go on here like this. Super. Oops, let's put them all go in the same direction. Have you done that, where you put some going one way and some going the other? I've done that too. And then you say a bad word and you rip it out and you put it all back together the right way. And it's all okay. So that's how this is going to go. I'm going to actually flip it and see what it would look like if you went this way. That could be cool too. I might almost, I'm not sure. Do I like that better? Or do I like it the other way better? This is kind of cool this way. There's no right or wrong really on these. Wow. Okay, you know what? Because I make one here, and then I'm going to make one for the store. I think what I'm going to do is I'll do these correctly, and then when I show the one at the store, I might flip it and make them go the other direction so they can see what that looks like too. There's no right or wrong. If you like it one way, do it that way, because your quilt is yours. There you go. I'm going to go stitch these together, and then we'll come back and see the final project. And here is your finished block 5 for this month. I like this one. Let me just tell you how I pressed my blocks. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way because that's how I pressed it. Up on the top I pressed toward the outside as well as the bottom. The bottom I pressed towards our kitty corner blocks, and then the center I pressed toward the center block. Then as I sewed all my rows together, I pressed this one and this one toward the center block as well. So I hope your blocks have turned out nicely, and we will see you next month for our So What block of the month, and it will come out on the 3rd Monday of the month. So see you soon. Bye for now.